MVP. Apparently a Cade Cunningham discussion is around the corner here on Betting Above the Rim Pro Basketball today. Tom Vecchio, Coach James Young, Kevin Walsh with you. The MVP race is between two, if it is not between one. It is SGA and Nikola Jokic. Look, these are two excellent candidates. There is no way to slice it.
Right.
I believe that there is the camp who feels as if Jokic will not win this because of fatigue. I think that lacks a lot of awareness as to what SGA has been, both sides of the floor, for a team that flirted with 70 wins this season. I'll go to you first, JY. Do you feel that this ultimately will be SGA comfortably as the league's MVP?
Yes, I do. And I think it has to do with the fact of, and I do think voter fatigue has a small portion of it, but it should not be the overwhelming theme. Because if that's the overwhelming theme, you're right. You're disrespecting what SGA has done this year, right? So SGA's team is, I think, 15 games ahead in the Western Conference.
Mm-hmm.
That's wild. That's like winning, by like 30 games in Major League Baseball.
Yeah.
Yeah, about 30 games in Major League Baseball. Let's make sure I get my numbers right. But when you look at his stats and what he's done, getting you at 32.7 points per game, getting the rebounds, getting the steals, the blocks, 2.7 assist to turnover ratio, and at points, Hartenstein was out of the lineup. Chet had missed significant time, and this team continued to roll. Sometimes it's not about what the Joker did, it's about what someone else did, and their team was significantly better for the entirety of the regular season, and has shown he should be on the all-defensive team as well. I think this honestly shouldn't be a race. If it is a race, it's because people honestly, Tom, are just looking at the stats of Joker averaging a triple-double this season.
As we spoke about pre-show, I believe it should be SGA, regardless of my personal belief that Cade Cunningham deserves some recognition for how amazing he's been this season. Sure. It's going to be SGA, and I don't want to say voter fatigue is a part of that. We've gotten to the point that we see what the team does in the standings, and at a certain point early in the year, the narrative is put forth that SGA is deserving of the award.
Yeah.
And it's not just that we put forth this narrative, or the media in general puts forth this narrative. He's actually met those expectations, and he's exceeded them, and the team is so good compared to the Nuggets. So when we round it all together, a smidge of voter fatigue, this narrative, the stats, leading the league in points, all these things, it puts him in a spot where he actually does those things, but he actually deserves those things.
Yeah, so I think one thing that you hit on, I think, is constantly lost in MVP conversations. Well, if the Nuggets didn't have Jokic, they'd miss the playoffs. The gap between the Thunder and the Nuggets is almost 20 games.
Yeah.
So, yes, the Thunder would make the playoffs, but they would lose 20 more games. So that doesn't work. The other thing with the voter fatigue is it's almost like a dirty thing. Okay, if we want to go back in time and start handing out MVP to
LeBron,
neither one of those guys have as many as they should. I don't know what it is about Nikola Jokic, seemingly Lamar Jackson a little bit for football fans, where every year we're just like, it's him. So, well, I don't know, but last year we decided the award based on wins, or 3 years ago we decided it was based on just triple doubles. It's changing. It feels like they want to change it constantly, and I think that this is one of those things that ultimately feels. Again, Jokic is having a great season. Jokic is having an unbelievable season. But it is not as if SGA is sneaking by here.
No.
If this was, respectfully, Donovan Mitchell, that's preposterous. He's not been, I don't even think Donovan Mitchell's been the best Cav. Okay, but the Cavs record, I don't care about that. If you told me it was Jason Tatum, no, that's ridiculous. Tatum is going to finish top 5 on the MVP ballot. He'll be first team All-NBA. He's not in this race. It is required a phenomenal season out of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and that is exactly what he has put forward here in order to win him the MVP. So that to me, it is what it is. I'll take this chance then, though, to go a step further with where these guys stack up across this league. The consensus is Jokic is the best player in the world. We don't need to debate that point, right? I think that's, again, probably where everybody would land. My question is where you are on Shai Gilgeous-Alexander relative to the rest of the NBA. Because I think we often look at the Thunder as this young, unproven team. But they, for me, check a box that the Rockets aren't close to checking. The Cavs probably can't check, which is they have one of the very, 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 very best players in basketball.
Yeah.
I was the high man on SGA probably coming into the year. I viewed him as the second best player in the league, even ahead of Luka. He outplayed Luka in that series, despite people rewriting history. Where are you at on SGA as it pertains to being that guy's good enough to lead a team to a championship?
There's an argument to be made that it's obviously Jokic one, and then depending on what an individual person values, it's like SGA is like a 2A and Luka could be a 2B or vice versa. I would not have SGA lower than 3. That's what it comes down to. And again, Giannis doing this, he's unbelievable. Defensively, Giannis could always be up there for Defensive Player of the Year, et cetera, et cetera. So, like, what do you value? But you can make the argument that it's Jokic, SGA, Luka, Giannis, or Luka, SGA, Giannis. Like, I think there's no reason to have SGA lower than 3 at worst.
Coming into this season, I had him as a top 5 player in the league, right? To me, it was, and I had him beat up there respectfully because but the injuries kind of took him out of it, right? So if you when I do my rankings, Joker's number 1. I think Giannis' stretch down the end of the season has been out of this world. I still do think that, and Kevin and I had talked about this all the time, like Giannis also needs to start guarding the other team's best player and saying, I'm locking you up, right? Which I think he's capable of. I don't know if he's ever gone to the doc and said, I want to do this. Then to me, it's SGA. I've now moved SGA ahead of Luka because of his defensive abilities, right? And that's not no knock on Luka because Luka's probably like right behind him at number 4. What he has done, and I want people to understand this, like when you think about great shooting metrics for a point guard, right? You go by the Steve Nash, Kyrie 50, 40, 90.
Yeah.
Well, right now, he's going to end the season 51.9, 37.5, 89.8. He's basically just about there. And it's his highest three-point shooting percentage of his career, except for 2021 when he only played 35 games. So statistically, shooting the ball, he's had his best season. His team's had their best season. Defensively, he's had his best season. To me, he firmly is right now the 3rd best player in the world, and he could jump and easily be 2 where Tom has him right now.
Yeah, I think, again, so, one of the reasons I had him 2 is when I'll do my preseason rankings, availability is a big part of it, and Giannis Antetokounmpo has just not even come close to checking that box. Forget, like Embiid's inability to be available has covered for Giannis's. Because Giannis is, again, last year, does anyone remember what Giannis did in the postseason? No, because he didn't play. Because that's been a thing for Giannis, unfortunately, after they won. He got injured the year they won the title, by the way, in the postseason and missed basketball games. I think SGA actually has the opportunity to grab the top spot because if you finish the season with an MVP and a finals MVP, quite frankly, it's very difficult to argue it's anyone else. There are always, though, award arguments. Perhaps there are some upsets coming. Defensive Player of the Year, Rookie of the Year. We'll talk about that next right here on Pro Basketball Today.
Okay, what tools can you use to measure those things a bit? And that's where you have like force plates and 3D motion and launch monitors, things like that. But that's all just sort of like measuring what's happening. That doesn't necessarily explain why one guy's really good and another guy's not really good. And that's where there's still kind of like this ongoing, how do you like continue to do research to understand that better? And I think that's going to last well past my lifetime.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
We know what Chris Sale can bring. I was personally high on Schwallenbach. Smith-Shawver, their other starter, looks okay to kind of bad. They need to I don't want to say tread water, so I think that puts it in a bad light, but that's what they ultimately need to do. They need to tread water until Strider gets back, until Acuna gets back, and maybe it's just part of the team morale mentality that we're not at full strength, need to kick things into gear once those guys get here.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
These guys are barreling everything right now that are hitting well. Pitching is usually ahead of hitting this time of year, but torpedo bats is what we're reading about, Tom, and I think it's hilarious.
Will the pitching be out in front, or are the bats actually this strong? So it's going to develop over the course of weeks. And again, if all teams have the ability to do so, be creative with it and get out there and use it.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
After every round, you guys were still up in each other's face, mouthing off before you went back to your corners, trying to get not just the last punch, but the last word. What was the mood between you guys? Obviously, you're in there for your fright.
It didn't cut him. It didn't stunt him. A point wasn't taken away. There's no reason to even mention something like that. You're in a brawl. Things are happening. Accidents happen.
Only on SportsGrid.
It's a great Saturday morning on SportsGrid. We may not have NBA games today, but we will have a full slate tomorrow. I will say, I think only one. Well, okay. There'll be a lot of games that don't matter.
Right.
Don't be scared to get in the mix, man. You're going to see some triple doubles out there tomorrow that you will not believe. Not every game's going to have
bench glory. A lot of bench guys are getting into action.
Not every game.
They're going to be shooting.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
When Peyton Pritchard plays, he might score 50. That's just it's Pritchard's time.
Or not double.
All right, so I want to get involved with the awards outside of MVP, right? Because we all expected to go to SGA. It's going to go to SGA. The odds expected to go to SGA. There are some other races, though, where the odds were up a little bit longer, the odds were a little bit shorter, and we maybe could see an upset here or there. Let's just get this out of the way because we talked about it already, a scotch on our show, which is the Coach of the Year race. Atkinson has been the favorite, since like game number 10? Yeah.
10-1 or 15-1 to start off.
Tell me what you think about the Coach of the Year race, Tom.
Again, this is kind of the situation where it's like the narrative's been put forth. They're breaking off multiple 15-game win streaks, right? Which is obviously insane. There's only X amount of teams to do this. So there's a reason for him to win the award. Mm-hmm. Now, we're going to bring up Ime Udoka for Houston.
Yep.
The jump that they made, right? Going from a non-playoff team near the top of the West. And as we have alluded to, they don't have a superstar.
Yeah.
They have some really good players, but they don't have a superstar. Mm-hmm. So doing that with the pieces relative, which is worse compared to some of the other teams, that's impressive in its own right. But to see that Atkinson were to win because they're top of the East, they're better than the Celtics, they're breaking off all these win streaks, I can understand that argument. And I will understand if that award eventually goes to him, right, Coach?
Right. I understand it, obviously, but I think people need to realize when you really look at this team in Cleveland, obviously, 64 wins, fantastic. 48 wins, 34 losses last year. Like, when you looked at Cleveland and why J.B. Bickerstaff was let go, it wasn't because of the regular season. It was because of the postseason.
Right.
And how they get beat up. When you looked at Houston, and I said before the season, I like them to go over at win total. I think the win total was like 31.5. They have 52 wins in a loaded Western Conference with Alperen Şengün, a.k.a. Baby Joker, is maybe in your top 25 in the world of basketball players, maybe even top 30. So a team that does it in the sum of their parts, and Ime taking the team to the next step. And remember, they were awful the first half of last year. and they had that nice run, and then Şengün got hurt,
yeah.
right? And then they missed the play-in by, I think, by 1 or 2 games.
Came down to the last 2 days.
Right. So their ascension to me is, as a coach and looking at what is expected and what they did, I know what Cleveland is fantastic, and it's going to go to Kenny. I just think there should be a lot more respect put on Ime Udoka as a legitimate candidate for Coach of the Year.
Yeah, now Cleveland has had a bigger uptick in wins year over year than Houston. I think, for me, one of the reasons I think it's Ime is because of how wrong I was. Okay. Cleveland, we've expected to be able to get to this level. So maybe I'm not giving Atkinson enough credit for being the one to unlock it. I bet the Rockets to miss the playoffs. I thought the best case scenario for them was to be in the play-in, and then I probably would fade them in the play-in. They're the 2 seed, right? So that, again, is where a little bit comes from me. But I do not think that it is egregious in any capacity that Kenny Atkinson is going to win this award. I will say I bet J.J. Redick preseason. If you would have told me they won 50 games, I would have thought I would have been in the race. And I am not in the race because, again, this looks to be Atkinson's award. To keep Cleveland in the mix, the Defensive Player of the Year award was Victor Wembanyama's, and then unfortunately he just couldn't meet the games requirement, didn't play post-All-Star break due to what could have been a scary situation. It looks like it'll be all good, but it opened the race back up. And nobody had a clear-cut, nobody was competing with Wembanyama either. It wasn't like, if it's not Wemby, it's this guy. It was Wemby's. The award was done. So all right, I guess Jaren Jackson Jr. and Evan Mobley. And then that was a little bit of a thing. And then Draymond's like, I'm DPOY. And then I guess people he said he's DPOY, we'll click. And the Bucks were like, I think he's DPOY. And then all of a sudden, Mobley got back in the race. The Defensive Player of the Year award is very, very tricky right now. My biggest take on the award is I wish that there wasn't a games requirement so I could just give it to Chet Holmgren, but that's preposterous, I know. I don't know if Mobley's case is great. I don't think Draymond's is good enough. Dyson Daniels been great on Atlanta, but the defense is still not. The defense is not that great. It's a tough situation he's in playing next to Trey. You like Dyson Daniels if you had the vote?
Yeah, I've liked Dyson Daniels pretty much for the better part of the last 2 months. His ability to steal the ball and guard on the ball, and I think he should. I know this sounds wild about to say. I think he should get credit for playing next to Trey. I think that.
I think that's fair.
I think it holds weight on the fact that he's playing against a guy that has. I mean, you want to talk about Luka not wanting to play defense? I mean, I think Luka tries. He just misses assignments. I don't think Trey even tries to play defense.
Yeah.
So to me, a team that's poor defensively, that ended up, losing Jalen Johnson, a pretty good defender, to injury, trading DeAndre Hunter, one of the better 3-and-D guys in the league. And this guy's defense, to me, I think, elevating, playing next to Trae Young. It's a wild thing because no one ran away from it. You can say Evan Mobley, people like Jaren Jackson Jr., I don't like because I just don't think he rebounds the ball enough. To me, for what he does stopping guards and guards dominate the league, I think it's Dyson Daniels in my opinion.
It really comes down to what you value, right? Is it because, and frankly, as we talked about, Trae Young's a liability on defense. So, Daniels is elevating part of the defense by himself and doing it shorthanded and not fully healthy. Do you value what Evan Mobley does? Do you value what Draymond does? That's why I think the award is actually one of the more difficult awards to break down because it can't just be on stats. Then we're looking at the advanced stats, the underlying metrics, the on-off stuff.
But what's so bizarre, again, for Atlanta, they're under 500. That's tough. That's a tough thing, right?
It wouldn't go for me. It wouldn't go to Daniels.
Cleveland is not one of the top 5 defenses in basketball. There's a misconception, I think, that they are. Neither are the Golden State Warriors. I wouldn't hate if Jalen Williams won it for Oklahoma City, but he doesn't, again, seem to be in the race. It seems to be Lou Dort. Some college rumors? We got some good ones. Those are next.
Okay, what tools can you use to measure those things a bit? And that's where you have force plates and 3D motion and launch monitors, things like that. But that's all just sort of like measuring what's happening. That doesn't necessarily explain why one guy's really good and another guy's not really good. And that's where there's still kind of like this ongoing, how do you like continue to do research to understand that better? And I think that's going to last well past my lifetime.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
We know what Chris Sale can bring. I was personally high on Schwallenbach. Smith Shawver, their other starter, looks okay to kind of bad. They need to I don't want to say tread waters. I think that puts it in a bad light, but that's what they ultimately need to do. They need to tread water until Strider gets back, until Acuna gets back, and maybe it's just part of the team morale mentality that we're not at full strength. We need to kick things into gear once those guys get here.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
These guys are barreling everything right now that are hitting well. Pitching is usually ahead of hitting this time of year, but torpedo bats is what we're reading about, Tom, and I think it's hilarious.
Will the pitching be out in front, or are the bats actually this strong? So it's going to develop over the course of weeks. And again, if all teams have the ability to do so, be creative with it and get out there and use it.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
After every round, you guys were still up in each other's face, mouthing off before you went back to your corners, trying to get not just the last punch, but the last word. What was the move between you guys? Obviously, you're in there for your fright.
It didn't cut him. It didn't stunt him. A point wasn't taken away. There's no reason to even mention something like that. You're in a brawl. Things are happening. Accidents happen.
Only on SportsGrid.
Whoa. I thought this was pro basketball today. That's Cooper Flagg. It's Danny Hurley. Your eyes don't deceive you. There are some college basketball conversations surrounding the league. And we'll handle the simpler one first, which is Cooper Flagg's decision. Cooper has not made the decision yet. He had an interview just a couple of days ago, maybe even just yesterday with ESPN, where if I'm trying to read body language and, word selection, I think he is going to declare. Everybody thinks he's going to declare. I do think Cooper Flagg is heartbroken that he didn't close it out with a national championship because they collapsed against Houston, and everything suggests they would have cracked Florida had they played them. But until Cooper says, I'm leaving, because sometimes guys run to tell you they're leaving. I think Lonzo declared in the locker room of the NCAA tournament loss that they took to Kentucky. Until Cooper says he's going, Coach, I am waiting for that news to drop, because if he stuns everyone and goes back, it's one of the biggest stories in basketball.
It is the biggest story. And you have to think about right off the bat is, if he comes back, two things I need to know is, what is his NIL he's getting for that year, which would smash everything that we've ever seen, and what's the insurance policy in case he gets hurt? Those are two things that I think need to be talked about and discussed. But this is a kid that I think generally loved being in college. He loved the atmosphere. He loves the guys. He loves the team. So to me, it's kind of like it's easier for him to just say, if they win that championship, did my job, I'm going to the pro. But I generally feel he has unfinished business at Duke. I do think he's going pro. But if he came back with the Boozer twins, and Kevin and I talked about this during the NCAA tournament, then does Con Knipple turn around and say, Psh, run it back?
Yeah, you're not going to win without me.
Now you're looking at Duke as what? 2-1?
Probably.
3-1? Max, Tom, to win the national championship.
I'm of the belief that he has unfinished business, and I would be less shocked than most people if he decides to stay. That's what it comes down to. And there's a lot of ramifications because there are betting odds on which team will get him.
Yeah.
It will impact win totals for next year in the NBA. Yeah. It will impact, draft position moving forward. It will impact free agency decisions because some teams may not put together good, strong free agent classes.
Can you imagine a tank next year if he comes back?
I'm saying the teams will not go out and sign people this year knowing that he's actually coming out next year.
To play for the Utah Jazz next year.
Like, we could get a 10-day contract.
Yeah.
That's what it comes. So it's not just will he, which as you alluded to, they'd be 2-1, 2.5-1 at best. But it impacts win totals for next year. It impacts all of those things across the NBA.
Yeah, the Rookie of the Year race obviously would be, completely different than what the expectations of it all would be. And yes, it's a hypothetical, but Cooper Flagg is so good that they've been hanging team to draft Cooper Flagg odds the whole season. Because they're like, well, he's just going to go first and he's going to leave. And that's what the situation has been. Now, the Danny Hurley part of it? Apparently, he's talking to the Denver Nuggets. They're loose reports, right? It's not the Laker level of reporting that we saw. Well, maybe the Laker level reporting was a friend helping out a friend, get some extra money. And then that friend since now went back and worked in college himself. You can connect those dots. I can't envision a world Hurley leaves UConn to go to Denver. After all of the reasons I heard he wasn't leaving UConn, I also just think, and JY, I'll let you handle the rest of this before we hit our break. Considering the job security that exists in college, going to a spot like Denver, who just did what they did with Michael Malone, it actually feels like it would be a crazy decision to leave this level of job security to coach the Denver Nuggets.
I think it would be absolutely wild if he went to Denver. I mean, I understood the Lakers, and obviously, Dan being a Jersey guy and being connected and knowing some of the people that were thinking about going to the Lakers, like, it was this close. Like, he had called people. He had formulated staffs. People I know were going to go work for him for the Lakers. But he also, Kevin, did this when he went to UConn, and he hemmed and hawed to leave a place like Rhode Island. So to me, it's going to be interesting. I think he stays. I think it's another ploy for maybe more money.
Yeah.
He stays. There's too much jobs. At what point could you, even if they did bad last year, he's still there.
He also has a pretty strong team coming to stores next season. Let's get to the NBA title odds. Any value, anything we should be placing on a day off? We'll let you know next.
Okay, what tools can you use to measure those things a bit? And that's where you have like force plates and 3D motion and launch monitors, things like that. But that's all just sort of like measuring what's happening. That doesn't necessarily explain why one guy's really good and another guy's not really good. And that's where there's still kind of like this ongoing, how do you like continue to do research to understand that better? And I think that's going to last well past my lifetime.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
We know what Chris Sale can bring. I was personally high on Schwallenbach. Smith Shawver, their other starter, looks okay to kind of bad. They need to I don't want to say tread waters. I think that puts it in a bad light, but that's what they ultimately need to do. They need to tread water until Strider gets back, until Acuna gets back, and maybe it's just part of the team morale mentality that we're not at full strength. We need to kick things into gear once those guys get here.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
These guys are barreling everything right now that are hitting well. Pitching is usually ahead of hitting this time of year, but torpedo bats is what we're reading about, Tom, and I think it's hilarious.
Will the pitching be out in front, or are the bats actually this strong? So it's going to develop over the course of weeks. And again, if all teams have the ability to do so, be creative with it and get out there and use it.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
After every round, you guys were still up in each other's face, mouthing off before you went back to your corners, trying to get not just the last punch, but the last word. What was the move between you guys? Obviously, you're in there for your fright.
It didn't cut him. It didn't stunt him. A point wasn't taken away. There's no reason to even mention something like that. You're in a brawl. Things are happening. Accidents happen.
Only on SportsGrid.
All right, let's talk title. Let's talk tickets quickly here. I'm curious if at the desk, are we invested anywhere at the moment in the NBA futures market? Is there anything we're holding on to as we get set?
As I told you the other night, I have a Denver Western Conference ticket.
Okay.
And that was solely based on the fact that there were promotion and odds boost by DraftKings at the All-Star break.
Okay.
And, it would tack on plus 300,
Sure.
whatever it was for that. And I was like, listen, if I could get Denver at the time, and at that time, Jamal Murray was playing amazing basketball January, February. He was really looking at it.
Yeah.
Listen, if I get Denver at this price, depending on where they end up, I was thinking they could end up in the 2-3, therefore they avoid OKC on that side of the bracket. You give me a little bit of odds boost, I'll throw a little bit on Denver. I like what they're doing. Things have changed for Denver since then, but that is the only NBA future that I'm holding.
What about you, Coach? Anything right now, title, conference-wise?
No, and I've said this when I've talked to Ben on the early line. I can't do anything until everything is set, because I need to see matchups and how teams go against each other, and then go from there. Obviously, what I've talked about earlier in the show. I am intrigued by Minnesota, depending on where they land,
Okay.
right? Because I think they're a team that could be a pathway for them. And I think the wild thing is at West is you have to be looking at that other side of the bracket away. If it ends up the way we talked about, going away from Oklahoma City and Denver.
Yeah.
And if you can find a team, whether it's Houston or the Lakers or the Clippers or whoever, try and find a pathway that way with probably a possibility of maybe like a cash out at the end because of the fact of those two teams in the West. That's going to be a war.
Yeah.
That's going to be a war should they both get by the first round. Like I'm saying, this is going at least 6, probably 7 games, and you hope that there is some they kind of fall off a cliff because they've worked so hard in that Western Conference semifinal matchup.
So I played a small chance on Sacramento in the West. That team that I bet on doesn't exist anymore. A small chance on the Pacers in the East. Maybe. I think their best case scenario is making a conference finals. Right. So, again, and that's their best case scenario. My title pick, which I loved, was Dallas. Well, that team also does not exist at all. I cannot stress how, again, everyone knows that move was crazy. I think one of the craziest parts of that move is that team, healthy, I still think could have made a run this season and won an NBA championship. And they just did what they did, and obviously the injuries played out the way they did. Maybe they wouldn't have played out, but that's neither here nor there. The second that the news, well, not the second the news broke, the second I realized the news was real, that Luka was on the Lakers, I knew the books were still, is this a thing? So I have some bigger Laker numbers than what those numbers are. It's been an odd season from that end of it. If I were to reinvest into the longer-term futures market, right, I'd have to be, very picky and choosy about it. I don't think I would be able to invest in the presently very low Oklahoma City or Boston numbers. Even the Cleveland number might be a tick too low. For you right now, and I'll go back to you first, Coach, though, kind of having an open slate in front of you, tickets-wise, is there a team that is calling your name as, the East bracket is set, a lot of the West is, we have a good idea?
I keep looking at Minnesota. Maybe it's just wild that I'm just over-projecting what I think they can become and what they could be, but it's as wild as it sounds, like, I wish that they were sitting and they're going to end up at 6 or 7. Because I think for them, that pathway, I could see them, probably going 7 and taking out Houston and maybe getting in a war with the Lakers and then going a pathway there. But to me, that would be the only one I'm sitting on. Listen, you go to the East, I can't take Boston. I don't believe in Cleveland. I'm a Knicks fan because the Knicks go to the NBA Finals. Kevin Durant thinks so. They could also lose 4-1, 4-2 to Detroit. I don't know where they're going. I don't even know who's going to do what on that team, namely the coach. So to me, it's Minnesota, Tom, and the rest of it I kind of stay away from at this point.
So if we're buying into the matchups in the bracket in the West, I know, Kevin, you want to make an argument for the Lakers at 15-1 currently.
No,
No?
not at the current price.
So
no.
here's how I'd go about that. If there's one bet to make that I wouldn't mind, you'd actually wouldn't bet on the Lakers to win the NBA championship. You'd actually bet on Luka at 24-1 to win Finals MVP.
No, I don't agree with that.
Yes. If you were trying to extract the most value, the only way Luka gets that award, you're getting a better number compared to the 15-1. You're getting it at 24-1 effectively.
The problem is that if he gets to the finals, there's also the LeBron factor.
And that's fine. And that's fine.
Yeah.
That's a risk grab. We're talking about long shot perspective.
Yeah, wouldn't you rather
futures.
take, what's the LeBron ticket?
It's 50-1.
You wouldn't rather that?
Sure, but I also want to talk about which player do I actually think is going to get it done. If we're talking about who's the best player in the series, it would be Luka 1, and then it would be LeBron,
Yeah,
Tatum.
until the Finals MVP's on the line.
I mean,
So the argument I'm making is the same thing for LeBron at 50-1.
Sure, I think the LeBron number is interesting at 50-1, quite frankly. Look, here's the other thing, though. What happened last year with Boston is a very rare instance where, like, the best guy actually didn't win it. And I don't mean the best guy in the series. I mean, like, we all know who the best player on the Boston Celtics is. And Tatum not winning either one of those is an astonishing upset, which we don't have to. I spent an hour unpacking with my guy Pat before the show. What's the SGA price
to win award?
For the Finals MVP
Plus 175. That's an insane number.
That's an atrocious. But he is. If it is going to be the Thunder, it is going to be him.
Yes.
I guess to me, as much as I say the benefit for LeBron is that Luka is better than him, right? Or is at least in theory, it'll allow LeBron to be the second best player. I still don't know what happens when if they get to the finals and they match up with Boston, the Celtics to some degree will feel better about probably, I would think, what they can throw at Luka versus what they can throw at LeBron, just due to LeBron's power and size.
Yeah.
Right? If that's the matchup that you're projecting. I think to, though, copy a little bit of what you're saying of how can we just get bigger tickets, an example would be OKC to beat Cleveland. Exact result, plus 720, right? I think that same wager, which is on FanDuel at plus 1020, is like 17-1, 18-1 on DraftKings, right?
Okay.
So that would be a little bit more interesting for me right now than again the Finals MVP. For me right now, than the Finals MVP market.
Okay.
What's the Brunson Cat gap for Finals MVP?
That would be, I mean, we're talking big numbers here now. Brunson.
Because the Knicks are 34-1.
55, Cat is 80. So 55 for Brunson, 80 for Cat.
I mean, if it were to...
If I know this sounds crazy as a Knicks fan, if the Knicks are going to make the finals and win the finals,
Cat has to do more than Brunson.
It's got to be Cat.
Cat has to do more than Brunson.
Because that means Cat is going to have to destroy Hartenstein or Şengün or have a big matchup advantage. Let's say it's the Lakers. So to me, I would look at, and the fact that all of those teams have premier guards, that I think Brunson is going to get hidden or abused defensively. So to me, if the Knicks win the finals, which I may cry on air, I may not come on air. You may not see me you want to talk about a celebration between me being a Jet, Matt, and Knicks fan. You may not see me for a month. Go find me in a Milkbox carton. But I would look at Cat at 80-1. More than Brunson.
It's very funny, man. Like, Jaylen Brown is 21-1 as the reigning Finals MVP. And then Kristaps is 25. Who bet the Kristaps number? Why is Kristaps as the third option 25-1? That's wild. What's the Chet Holmgren price? 95-1? You got to consider it. You got to consider it. Now Tom's got me on a goose, goose chase here. All right, so that's where we are. We'll take a break. We'll talk Clippers Warriors, the biggest game on tomorrow's slate, next.
Okay, what tools can you use to measure those things a bit? And that's where you have like force plates and 3D motion
right.
and launch monitors, things like that. But that's all just sort of like measuring what's happening. That doesn't necessarily explain why one guy's really good and another guy's not really good. And that's where there's still kind of like this ongoing, how do you like continue to do research to understand that better? And I think that's going to last well past my lifetime.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
We know what Chris Sale can bring. I was personally high on Schwallenbach. Smith Shawver, their other starter, looks okay to kind of bad. They need to I don't want to say tread waters. I think that puts it in a bad light, but that's what they ultimately need to do. They need to tread water until Strider gets back, until Acuna gets back, and maybe it's just part of the team morale mentality that we're not at full strength. We need to kick things into gear once those guys get here.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
These guys are barreling everything right now that are hitting well. Pitching is usually ahead of hitting this time of year, but torpedo bats is what we're reading about, Tom, and I think it's hilarious.
Will the pitching be out in front, or are the bats actually this strong? So it's going to develop over the course of weeks. And again, if all teams have the ability to do so, be creative with it and get out there and use it.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
After every round, you guys were still up in each other's face, mouthing off before you went back to your corners, trying to get not just the last punch, but the last word. What was the move between you guys? Obviously, you're in there for your fright.
It didn't cut him. It didn't stunt him. A point wasn't taken away. There's no reason to even mention something like that. You're in a brawl. Things are happening. Accidents happen.
Only on SportsGrid.
Back right here on SportsGrid for a segment that is going to maybe be a lot more interesting than I thought it would be, where we talk about tomorrow's matchup between the Warriors and the Clippers. Kevin Walsh, Tom Vecchio, and Coach James Young. And I say that because right before we began, Coach goes, you don't think there's any way the Clippers win that game. Now, unless you have information that I don't have, where the Clippers are tanking the game, I mean, it's a 4-point spread. Can you not stand this Clipper team? Are you secretly in love with this Warrior team? And you
I hate
wait
the Warriors. I hate Draymond more than I hate anybody in the league. I just think looking at the game in Golden State with that team and them knowing the importance of remember, if I'm not mistaken, didn't Golden State be in a play-in a couple of years ago and lose and get knocked out of the playoffs?
Oh.
So against who? Oh, okay.
Well, so actually, just to give everyone the history lesson, since JY brought it up, I'll bring it up. They were an 8 seed. They played the 7 seed Lakers. LeBron hit a 30-footer in Steph's eye. They get then bounced into the 8-9 game. Then they lost to Memphis on their home court. Right. Not Steph's fault. What you want him to do. And then, oh, by the way, because only people might remember that one, literally last year they were in the play-in. They were favored at Sacramento, and they didn't get out of that game either. Now, this year, the play-in, Tom, which again also wouldn't be Steph's fault. And if they lost that game, it wouldn't be Steph's fault because nothing is Steph's fault. Yet we throw him into GOAT conversations because we're legitimately out of our minds somehow covering this league. Where are you at? Are you somewhere on this game? Where are you at on this game right now? It's tomorrow. You have some
it's
time.
tomorrow. So 4-point spread. I think it's from a betting perspective, not any of these takes, history withstanding.
I just was offering up some context. That's all.
Clippers are obviously very live to win the game.
Sure.
You believe that the Clippers are one of the more underrated teams in the league.
I just think they are only going to become legitimately discussed once the matchups are set.
Correct. I think it's a very fair to say that the Clippers cover, but they don't win. I think the Warriors win, but they don't cover, I should say. Put it a little bit more simply. They win, but they don't cover.
Just threading a needle?
Yeah, it is. But we're talking a 220 total. I would shade on the under on that. Over the last 3 games, both teams are in the bottom 11 of the league in offense pace. They're slowing things down. The Clippers are sub 100 possessions in pace of the last 3. It is playoff time. It is playoff mentality. Give me the Warriors to win, the Clippers to cover. I hope that the Warriors get out to a big lead, and then you can grab the Clippers at an 8 or 9 number, and then you're working with a great spot where you can play both sides of it. I think the Clippers are very live to win.
And to me, if that's the way you feel, to me, then isn't the best bet to go under 220.5?
I would be on him, absolutely.
Because of the fact of how big this game is and how neither team wants to get into it. There's also, to me, I'm looking at this, and I shouldn't count this as an elimination game. There is the big game, James Harden factor. And I'm looking at it as maybe not an elimination game or game 7, but this is a game in which these are huge stakes for a guy that you know, Kevin, has underperformed time and time again in big spots and close out game 7 do or die situations. So to me, yeah, I like the Warriors because they're also at home, but I think the best bet of the day could be under 220.5.
So a couple of things. One, just to reset the importance of this game, we're going to assume a Denver victory against Houston and a Minnesota victory against Utah. If the Warriors then, under that circumstances, win this game, they will be the 6th seed. They will play the Lakers in round number 1, almost assuredly on Saturday evening in what the NBA will cry many, many, many tears of joy over getting. Okay. And the Clippers will be the 7. If we assume Denver and Minnesota's victories, but the Clippers win this game, the Clippers get up to the 5. Huge difference. Golden State back to the 7. Huge difference. Denver still the 4. Minnesota ends up the 6 and playing the Lakers. As we sit here right now, it may change as we get closer. I do like the Warriors in this game, despite giving you a tough time. I can't help myself. The Warriors are at home, which is an advantage, but the Warriors game against Portland was also much easier. It was not pretty, but in part, I think, because of how Kerr approached it. Steph only played 27 minutes. Draymond Jimmy also played under 30 minutes. The Clippers ended up in a dogfight against Sacramento. 42 minutes on Kawhi, 43 minutes on Harden, 36 minutes on Norm Powell. And again, that is a lot. Now to go play another do-or-die basketball game, maybe the Warriors will have a little bit more in the legs. And make no bones about it, that is what this game is. You may say, oh, I'd much rather play Houston in round 1 than the Lakers, or I'd much rather play Houston than the Rockets. But nobody wants to be in that play, and especially not these two teams.
No.
Especially not Kawhi and Steph Curry or Draymond and James Harden wanting more and more on their legs, because this would be, let's just say you're the Clippers, 40 minutes against Sacramento, 40 minutes against Golden State, 40 minutes against Memphis in the play-in at a minimum to try and get through back into just the 7 seed. That becomes very, very tricky if that is, again, how it is going to play out.
Right, can I say something real quick?
Yeah.
And just thinking about this, you guys are going to think that the biggest matchup in this game is what you get out of Ibaka Zubac.
Yeah.
If you look at his numbers versus Golden State, right? 16 points, 15.3 rebounds, 4 assists, shooting at about 58% from the floor. Now, who's going to probably see him? Should be the defensive player of the year, Draymond Green. So what kind of tricks does Draymond have up his sleeve in that game? I mean, you want to talk about trying to bait this guy, and this is where it gets interesting. I want to see where the NBA, and it'll be announced usually about 9:30 a.m. I want to see who the referee crew is, because that is going to be a major storyline with a game that means that much, right? And you know how Draymond is. If I'm Draymond and I get the right crew, I'm doing whatever I can to get under Ibaka Zubac's skin, because I think he plays a bigger role in this matchup than people want to give him credit for.
So far this season, the Clippers are 3-0 against Golden State. Every one of those games, though, happened before the new year, which not only means no Jimmy Butler, but it also does mean Kawhi didn't play in any of those games. Kawhi didn't debut, I think, until it was about January. So it's a very fresh matchup that we're going to see here. Could be very relevant when we're trying to figure out postseason approach for these two teams. We'll look at the rest of Sunday before we get out of here on a Saturday morning on SportsGrid.
Okay, what tools can you use to measure those things a bit? And that's where you have like force plates and 3D motion
Right.
And you know, launch monitors, things like that. But that's all just sort of like measuring what's happening. That doesn't necessarily explain why one guy's really good and another guy's not really good. And that's where there's still kind of like this ongoing, how do you like continue to do research to understand that better? And I think that's going to last well past my lifetime.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
We know what Chris Sale can bring. I was personally high on Schwallenbach. Smith Shawver, their other starter, looks okay to kind of bad. They need to I don't want to say tread waters. I think that puts it in a bad light, but that's what they ultimately need to do. They need to tread water until Strider gets back, until Acuna gets back, and maybe it's just part of the team morale mentality that we're not at full strength. We need to kick things into gear once those guys get here.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
These guys are barreling everything right now that are hitting well. Pitching is usually ahead of hitting this time of year, but torpedo bats is what we're reading about, Tom, and I think it's hilarious.
Will the pitching be out in front, or are the bats actually this strong? So it's going to develop over the course of weeks. And again, if all teams have the ability to do so, be creative with it and get out there and use it.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
After every round, you guys were still up in each other's face, mouthing off before you went back to your corners, trying to get not just the last punch, but the last word. What was the move between you guys? Obviously, you're in there for your fright.
It didn't cut him. It didn't stunt him. A point wasn't taken away. There's no reason to even mention something like that. You're in a brawl. Things are happening. Accidents happen.
Only on SportsGrid.
Betting above the rim, it is pro basketball today. Tom Vecchio, Coach James Young. I'm Kevin Walsh. This is our final little spin around the block, if you will, before what should be I can't lie to you. Tomorrow's going to be ridiculous.
It's going to be a weird day.
It's going to be everything in the East is set. Everything. So that is already going to be outrageous. And the West, it's like, there's a lot that could happen, but it only feels like one game actually matters.
Right.
Where both teams care and can move. And they're like, Memphis, Dallas, kind of matters. That's why that line's already up. It's like, nobody actually cares what the play-in order is. Just being honest, that's the way it feels. So we'll just kind of around the table. Is there something that maybe you guys are most interested in seeing on tomorrow's slate?
Castle drops 30.
Yeah?
Close out the season.
I don't mind that take.
Lock
I
up,
like that take a lot, actually.
Lock up rookie of the year. I mean, he's going to win, right? We didn't talk about that award.
We didn't.
Because the Wemby, we knew it was going to be Wemby. There was no one else. But, he's going to win the award.
He is. I'm not sure he should. The thing, though, is the guy that I feel like deserves much more consideration isn't in the conversation at all, and it is Zach Edey.
Okay.
Look, Reese Shea's been playing better. Sarr's been playing. Zach Edey has a positive on-off court rating, which none of these rookies. They're all on terrible basketball teams.
But that's like, it's not Castle's fault. And I like the fact that Castle's been playing he basically played since the jump. He hasn't been scoring at the same rate.
Yeah.
Compared obviously with Wemby, and then they brought in Fox.
He needed stuff to happen, like De'Aaron Fox getting hurt.
Right, but let's
and
go.
them starting Chris Paul before
regardless
that.
Regardless of that, we're talking about tomorrow's slate specifically.
Yes.
Right, we can talk about to the end of the earth. We're playing the Raptors. This game doesn't matter. Let's go out there. Let's have some fun. He's going to take 20-some-odd shots, right? I'm pretty sure CP3 didn't play the final half of the game yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Get out there, take some shots, ladder him up 25, 30-plus, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
That's my take for tomorrow.
So what I am going to do is I think both games which teams need something, not including the game between the Clippers and the Warriors, I'm going to take both Denver and Minnesota to be up by 10 by the end of the first quarter. If I can find some kind of alternate first quarter line, and I'm saying if I'm those teams, I'm going for it. I'm trying to blow this game out early because I got to get my guys to the bench as soon as possible. So
Love
to
that.
me, I think you look alt lines. If you can find alternate first quarter lines, I think both teams win comfortably by the end of the first quarter. Lines will probably be about 4.5, 5.5 first quarter. If I think they try and jump them by 10, I'm going to see if I can find to be winning by 10. Both those teams parlay them together.
Pedal down.
I want to see, one, what kind of numbers I'm just going to assume Peyton Pritchard's going to be like, no, coach, like, please, I'm trying to play. Last year, Peyton Pritchard, game 82, 44 minutes.
Yes.
38 points, 9 rebounds, 12 assists.
Oh, yeah.
So if they post a Peyton Pritchard triple-double, I'll probably have to take a poke around. He's probably he's been waiting forever to get that lick back for game 82. The other one, and you're going to think, oh, it's KW. No, I'm not. I'm right. It'll be one of the biggest things you will see in terms of the games that don't matter. Bronny James probably gets the start.
Oh,
probably
15 plus.
Probably gets how many?
15 plus.
Oh, you said 50. I was like, I like where Coach says it. Let's get on that horse now. That rookie of the year race ain't done just yet now. Hold on. I mean, he has the one career game where he played 30 minutes against Milwaukee, crossed up Giannis. We all saw it. 17 points, multiple threes, 3 boards, 5 dimes. Can we get a PRA?
25-ish?
I mean, that's
30?
He gave you 25 PRA. So if you get 19 and a half, watch a sizz. I'm not taking the weekend
19
off.
and 15 plus points.
Is this like a 3-man weave we're doing here? Are we putting this all together if it comes out?
The most ridiculous ideas of all. Yes, we'll put together Castle 30, Pritchard triple-double, Jazz or losing by 10, Rockets losing by 10, Bronny for 50.
And Yankee top 5.
And Perdomo to homer and Vladdy to 2 bases. Listen, the crew in the back, a.k.a. Just Casino Chris, has been absolutely firing off takes, which I do appreciate somewhat here. I also don't think it's a crazy idea, though, if you look for just a couple of upsets. If they give you just some outrage, like
we're going to see 20-point lines. Is that what you're saying?
More so like if Boston's backups are laying 15 or 16 to Charlotte. Like, ultimately, though, it's still Boston's backups, and maybe they won't play the full game, right? Like, that could be something that gets a little interesting. I think it should be a lot of fun tomorrow, though. I'm now really looking forward to it.
Let's get weird. That's what's going to happen.
The more you hang around Tom Vecchio, you realize he loves a weird slate.
Oh, yeah.
He really, like, week 18, game 82.
Yeah, week 18, let's do it.
Like, this guy's missing week 1 of the postseason, but wouldn't miss the game 82 breakdowns. We'll see you next week right back here on SportsGrid.
We all know nothing beats the energy of playing live roulette in a casino. But playing roulette online sure does have its perks. At the casino, you'll average 40 to 50 spins per hour. But online, you're looking at 100 to 150. The more spins, the more chance of wins. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas.
The game is on. The stakes are high. But the action isn't just on the field.
He's rearranging that rim. Get it inside!
SportsGrid's in-game live. Your ultimate second screen experience.
Just a little flyer, couple of 18.5 point live line.
Every prop, every play, every day.
Anything can happen. It's complete chaos.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8